So my story is all about growing up deaf and not knowing how to handle that experience or where I fit in. And now that I've grown into my identity and I'm really proud of who I am, I really want to share what things are like from my perspective because I don't feel that deaf culture is known widely enough. And I really don't like the stereotypes that are existent around deaf people. So I just want to share what it is actually like, bring people into my world, and hopefully build some empathy and connection. Picture this. You're 6 years old. It is a hot summer's day and you have taken an adventure to the pool. You find yourself sitting underwater and it is still and quiet. You can almost hear the world around you, but not quite. It is muffled and you are at peace. Can you feel it? Suddenly, your parent yanks you out from under the water and you can hear and feel everything. Children screaming as they shake the bars of the water slide. The hot sun is beating into your skin. You smell way too much chlorine and your swimsuit is all kinds of wrong on your body. In contrast to your underwater bliss, it is overwhelming. Sit with that overwhelm for a minute. That is how I felt when I put my hearing aids in for the first time in 5th grade. The first night I had my hearing aids, my family and I went out to celebrate what was supposed to be a new and exciting step in my life, and I just ended up sobbing in the middle of Red Robin because my previously quiet, peaceful, muffled world blew up. I could hear so much silverware hitting the tables, conversations everywhere, and apparently ceiling fans, those make sound. What was supposed to be a gift of hearing was in actuality just my worst nightmare. See, when a person is born hearing, you often naturally have the ability to make sense of auditory chaos. But when a person who is born deaf or hard of hearing, and whose world is naturally quiet, gets hearing aids, you don't have the ability to tune the noises of the world out, and it is exhausting to constantly focus in on what you are trying to understand. I've had hearing aids for years now, but I still feel like crying if it gets too loud in Red Robin. In that moment in 5th grade, I learned that I wasn't hearing, but I didn't feel like I could say that I was deaf either. I assumed that if you could hear anything, it disqualified you from being deaf. But calling myself hearing didn't make any sense. I can't hear conversations in crowded spaces, and without my hearing aids, I can't hear birds chirp in the morning. My world is one where ceiling fans don't make sound, and I can't hear it if you call my name from across the room and forget knowing the difference between ship, chip, and sip. But I can hear things like fire alarms, or church bells ringing, or babies crying. This experience of being able to hear some things, but never enough to fully participate in the world around me, led to me being unable to figure out where I fit. That's what I felt like my story was for a really long time, trying desperately to prove that I fit somewhere, that there was a space and an identity that I could call rightfully mine, but always coming up short. I don't know how to emphasize how confusing this was. I didn't know how to name my experience, and I couldn't make sense of any of it. All I knew was that I felt isolated from the hearing world around me, and I felt alone. It wasn't until I got to UO that I learned about deaf culture. A lot of people don't know that there is an entire rich deaf culture that is built on shared stories and a shared history with deaf artists and deaf universities, a shared sense of humor, and a beautiful language. When I learned about it, I was amazed, but deeply conflicted as to whether or not it was something I could call my own. How could I be a part of deaf culture if I still didn't know if I was technically deaf or not? I remember the moment it all clicked. About a year and a half ago, mid-COVID, I was sitting in the middle of my bed watching a video for my ASL class in which people of all different hearing levels were signing deaf enough. The light bulb clicked. That applied to me. Turns out there is no one definition of what it means to be deaf. To be deaf is to be not hearing. There is no test to pass. or bar to jump over, or anything that you have to prove. Deaf culture is my culture, and it is my connection to this culture that has turned out to be my saving grace. There are people who understand my experience. I belong. There's a misconception that being deaf greatly takes away from your ability to experience the fullness of life, when in reality it just changes it. As I'm progressively losing my hearing, I have gained more than I will ever lose. We call this deaf gain. Being deaf is not a loss. It is gaining access to a unique perspective, a rich community, a complex culture, and an amazing language. I love being deaf. It's not without its challenges, but in spite of them, I have fought to understand my deaf identity. I have fought to know that I am perfectly deaf enough. My deafness is something that I celebrate. Deafness is something that should be celebrated. I hope that you'll celebrate it with me.